Senator from Oklahoma is recognized.
What is the pending business before the Senate?
The motion to proceed to H.J. Res. 98.
And the amount of time that's been allocated by the Majority Leader under the unanimous consent agreement?
Republican leader has 8 minutes remaining.
I understand that, but what was the total amount of time that was been allocated to this H.J. Res?
The time until noon was equally divided.
So the total amount of time is less than 2 hours today that we're going to discuss this resolution. Is that correct, Mr. President?
It was slightly more than 2 hours.
Thank you. I'd ask unanimous consent to be able to speak on the resolution for 20 minutes.
Is there objection? Senator from Florida.
How many minutes does the minority have left?
The minority has 7 minutes left.
And how much time does the majority have?
The majority has 24 minutes remaining.
Would the senator consider 15 minutes, given the inequity of the time?
Well, actually, that was my whole point, is we're going to spend a little more than 2 hours to raise the debt limit, $1.2 trillion. You can't give a senator 20 minutes to talk about it?
Mr. President, is there a consent order that was entered into yesterday?
There was a unanimous consent agreement yesterday.
And the minority has 8 minutes left.
The senator now has 6.5 minutes left.
I'm asking for unanimous consent to speak on this issue, $1.2 trillion raise in the debt limit for 20 minutes.
Is there objection?
Mr. President, I have no objection.
Thank you.
Senator will proceed.
Mr. President, I come to the floor aghast that we have entered into a unanimous consent agreement to spend less than 2.5 hours talking about raising the debt ceiling another $1.2 trillion. $1.2 trillion. We passed a Budget Control Act that raised the debt limit to $15.2 trillion. The President has requested another increase in the debt limit of another $1.2 trillion. We passed a Budget Control Act that didn't cut spending. There's no absolute reduction in spending. We didn't eliminate one program. We didn't do one oversight hearing on the waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government in the time of August when we passed that until now. No wonder America is disgusted with Congress. On September 7th, the debt was increased limit was increased from 8.9 to 9.8 trillion. In July of 2008 to 10.6. In October to 11.3. In February of 2009 to 12.1. In February of 2010 to 14.3. In August of 2011 to 14.7. In September of 2011 to 15.2. And now we're going to raise it to 16.3. I didn't vote for one of those. And the reason is a debt limit doesn't mean anything in this country. Because every time we come up to the debt limit, what we do is just pass it rather than the things the American people have asked us to do. Little has changed in Washington in the last 5 years. We've argued, debated, and lamented over how to rein in the federal government's costs and out-of-control spending. All the time that was going on, we were on a spending binge, spending money we do not have on things we do not need. Even though we knew we had to borrow more money, Congress has done nothing to avoid raising the debt limit further. Nothing. We did not do oversight of federal programs. We didn't eliminate one duplicative program. We didn't eliminate any spending in the tax code. We hear all the members of Congress and the President talking about how we have to change stuff. We didn't do anything on that would generate more revenue, fair revenue to the federal government. We didn't work to save Medicare. We didn't work to save Social Security. We didn't work to save Medicare. Instead of fixing the problem, we made it worse. We increased the deficit. We funded ineffective programs. We wasted money on silly projects. We funded duplication. We approved $1 trillion in more spending for next year, all of which will essentially be borrowed on the backs of our grandkids and our kids. Let me give you some examples of what we spent money on last year. We spent $75,000 to promote the awareness that Michigan raises Christmas trees. We spent $113,000 for video game preservation. We spent $550,000 for a documentary about how rock music contributed to the collapse of the Soviet Union. We spent $48,000 for the second annual Hawaii Chocolate Festival. We spent $350,000 to support an international art exhibit in Venice, Italy. We spent $10 million to remake Sesame Street for Pakistan. We spent $35 million on our own party conventions. And we spent $764,000 to figure out how students use mobile messaging devices for social networking, which they already know how they do it. In February of last year, GAO brought us a wonderful report. It showed thousands upon thousands of programs that are duplications. The majority leader of this body voted against both attempts that I made to take advantage and eliminate waste and duplication. He never once instructed committee chairmen to go find this duplication, eliminate it, to save our children, to save our country. And we didn't do any better on our side of the aisle. The fact is we didn't do anything. Of the thousands of things that we could have done, we did nothing to lower our deficit, cut the waste, or eliminate duplication. We've known about this significant $100 billion gold mine of savings from the GAO report for over a year now, and we've done nothing. Zero. America should be disgusted with Congress because what we care about is party power, not fixing the problems of this country. Just this week, the GAO reported an additional report, and next month we're getting the second third of the federal government on duplication. It's going to have another $100 billion identified as waste. But this week, GAO reported we have 209 separate federal programs to advance science, technology, engineering, and math education. 209 programs, of which most of them overlap one another. We've put amendments on the floor to say we want every agency to tell us all the programs. It's defeated. You vote against it because you don't want to know what all the programs are. The only way we eliminate the duplication is to make the agencies show us what they're doing. That goes down to defeat. Why? Because we don't want to do the hard work of living within our means like every other family and every other business in this country does. We ignore the realities. We're in la-la land on who can win the next election. We've done nothing about the $9.5 billion in government benefits that have been paid to people who earn more than $1 million a year in this country. We've done nothing about that since that report came out. Government benefits, from unemployment insurance to student loans, $9.5 billion a year. We've done nothing. Zero. We could have done it. We could save money. We've done nothing. Real Americans, everyday Americans, understand the way we get out of our problems is through sacrifice and prioritizing what is important for our country. We lack the leadership in this body to do that. A veteran who served our country in a time of war wrote me a letter about our current financial situation. More than nearly anyone I come in contact with in Washington, this regular citizen from the middle of the country understands the problem, and he understands what is needed to fix it. Dear Senator Coburn, I'm a retired military member and a veteran, deployed 4 times during my career, having spent years of my life in some very dangerous places, away from home in tough conditions. I'm very familiar with shared sacrifice. In all those days away, my sole purpose was to be prepared and ensure my soldiers were ready to deploy and return alive. In our current situation, it's easy to feel like we're, as a country, going into battle unprepared against an economic, financial enemy, a political gridlock, no compromise, no leadership, with 2 parties vying for the next election. I'm well aware that many proposals currently out there would potentially affect me. However, I'm willing to work hard now and be part of the solution that solidifies our country's future versus robbing my kids and grandkids from the same opportunities our great country offered me. Please inform your colleagues there are more people like me awaiting leadership and good decision making than there are left and right side uncompromising voters. These times call for briefings to the American people, not speeches. These times call for members of Congress to stand together and to brief us on our unfunded liabilities and show us how sacrifice can lead to renewed prosperity later. Sincerely yours, Robert Boudiette, Lawton, Oklahoma. I'm embarrassed for us that we fail to meet the very standard that we ask of the people who serve this country. And so rather than give a speech, let me give you a briefing. We've done nothing to fix the 100+ programs in surface transportation. We've done nothing to eliminate the duplication in the 82 federal government programs for teacher quality. We've done nothing to consolidate the 88 economic development programs. We've done nothing to consolidate the 80 different transportation assistant programs. We've done nothing to eliminate the 47 financial literacy programs. We have no business teaching anybody financial literacy when we don't even have it ourselves. We've done nothing to consolidate the 47 job training program. Matter of fact, we heard the president say he wanted to add to it. Homelessness prevention and assistance, 20 programs. We've done nothing to consolidate it. The food programs, disaster response and FEMA, and there's hundreds more. And yet we've done nothing. Shouldn't we come together as men and women, Americans, not Democrats and Republicans, and say we're going to do what we can do to assure the future of this country and quit thinking about the next election? We ought to be doing what is needed. It's called making priorities. We could save $50 billion if we got together and said, okay, every committee is going to oversight, eliminate duplication, eliminate fraud. We've got a bill with 37 co-sponsors called to eliminate the fraud in Medicare. 37, bipartisan. Can't even get it to the floor to vote on it to make sure CMS eliminates some of the $100 billion a year in waste and fraud at CMS in terms of Medicare. That's how we save Medicare. But yet, we can't get it to the floor. So where we do work together, we're blocked or impeded from having a vote where we have bipartisan consensus. I call on my colleagues. I love you dearly. I think you're tremendous individuals. But we better change our vision. We better change what we have our eye on. What our eye on now, in terms of the risk to our country, is the survival of our country. And it's time we come together, put partisanship aside, and say we're going to solve the problems in front of this country. We can do it. The brain power is here. The capability is here. Let's do it. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
The Assistant Majority Leader is recognized.